Today I show you the raw W key aggression that you need to be the best Berserker on Lost Ark. We already know the ZERKERGANG is the way. And being part of the ZERKERGANG isn't about class, it's about the energy. So thank you guys for all the love on the recent videos. I can only promise you the future is getting bigger, brighter, and better. And so will the videos that stop you from losing your girl to a Deathblade, and the guides that keep you ahead of everybody else on all of Lost Ark. And you already know all this stuff is going to be linked in the description. So while you're down there, make sure you drop a sub. And before I forget, my name's Claysthetics, and we're running right into it. And don't forget to like the video. It's the only way YouTube knows I exist. And lighting this off, I found a brand new Berserker secret. And no, it's not Brazil's secret, but we will go over that later. It's that raw W key energy that nobody can match. Imagine needing an ult to dodge these tornadoes. Beta Gunlancer, meet the Chad ZERKERGANG enjoyers. It's the raw aggression, the maximum gaming performance that leaves everyone else in the dust, that makes them so mad that we exist. And it leaves you feeling amazing, because that's what being a Berserker is all about. Big boy nerfs to Mayhem? No problem. When we do the quick maths about the nerfs, we understand that I can't even count, but can read MVP every time. And that's all you're going to see every time you see us. Up in lights, last hitting the boss with the ZERKERGANG energy. Honestly, every time I last hit a boss with this ult, I feel like a monster. But let's take a look at this Durfy boy that everybody got so up in arms about. It did get reverted quite a bit from the original Nerfy boy. So the big PP nerf to Mayhem is only 2%. And I don't really think that's going to matter at the end of the day. With the overall change to Red Dust being an attack power buff instead of raw damage, it doesn't really feel that bad when you get Judgment Conviction, because the uptime ends up being insane, because it got changed from a 30-second cooldown down to a 24. So if you have that 20% cooldown reduction gem, it drops it down to 19.2 seconds, which means there's only a 3-second downtime on the 6% damage. And that's actually really solid. So if you subtract the 6% off the 30, we lost 24% outgoing damage and got it replaced by the attack power increase, which makes incoming AP buffs and our raw AP more valuable in general, because the higher our base attack is, the better scaling we get from our percent damage and our crit damage. Even with the 30% nerf on Swordstorm and Hellblade, it just makes staying in a solid DPS rotation, like the one I taught you in the other Berserker guides, even more valuable. So when we add all that together and stack the coefficient of the 40th power to the nobody actually cares, Mayhem is still the sustained DPS king. And we're still slamming MVPs harder than Reddit and the forum kids are slamming Copium. And a lot of people wanted my honest opinion about Mayhem. I think it's just fine. I think with the nerf reversion from like the crazy nerf that it was going to get down to like still having only the 2% outgoing damage nerf overall isn't going to be that bad. And 45% on health potions and stuff really isn't going to be a big deal, because we're going to be forced to use the purple ones anyways. And respectively, we were already getting too much shielding and healing anyways, so I don't really think that's going to change. I think that's going to end up being just fine. And I think when you see a good Mayhem Berserker, you're probably still going to see them be MVP in the party, and there's really nothing you can do about that. But now for the real Brazil's secret that transcends time and space. And of course, I'm talking about Berserkers Technique, and I've been talking about this build for a while, and currently it's just as much, if not more DPS than Mayhem in the right situation. And while it does force you to use awakening potions, it's a small price to pay to start the fight with such high burst and high DPS and just feeling that good. And with the changes, I have 2 updated builds for Vaulting coming out that I've been testing, and nobody has even come close to their DPS. But if you're interested on what I had before, all the text guides are linked in the description, and the link to the video should be right there. But if you do want early access to the newer builds, they'll be up on Patreon about a week before I put them live. So thank you guys so much again for subbing to me on there. It means the world to me that you're helping me keep this going. So with the small buff to Burst Tech giving us 20% more crit damage, it was a nice little juicer. And with the Argo set that we picked to help eclipse our team, because every single person with crit chance, and it's more important to actually eclipse than it is to have the building buff, which you don't maintain that often anyways. Either set's not really that much of a difference from each other if used correctly. That also means with Keen Blunt Weapon and Berserker's Technique and that set, we're going to be at like 370% crit damage. And that's probably a little bit overkill, but it looks really cool. And with the higher base damage that we're going to be getting from having Red Dust give attack power, the scaling's actually pretty solid. But after you get like 320, 350% crit damage, anything above that doesn't really scale the best. So you will be able to float 320%, and it'll probably feel close to the same as 350. And yes, I'm aware of the graph and the scaling and the damage implications. Don't worry. Which is why other engravings start being slightly better than pushing that extra crit damage, which is why anything that increases our base damage becomes a lot more valuable. And I do have most symbols in the engravings part of the guide, but things like Raid Captain and Cursadol are going to have a ton of value over your course of your entire daily grind and be really good. And something like Adrenaline is going to be even more valuable if you decide to change one of the skills I'm going to talk about in a minute. And finally, Grudge. Grudge is one of the best engravings for bossing just in general, but on Berserker's Technique, it makes a huge difference. Grudge is actually really good as Berserker's Technique, and I know a ton of people hate it, but going forward in the future, you might want to look to build Grudge on Berserker's Technique because it is very solid. But I personally would build Grudge as like a 4th or even a 5th engraving for Berserker's Technique. And now to talk about what I would run Adrenaline with, and that's because of one of the sleeper changes that is Mountain Crash having a counter. And with the Elgasia update, you can counter from behind, but you do have to know that Mountain Crash does not give you bonus crit chance. It kind of reads weird, like the ability gets 20% crit chance on its bonus thing that you pick in the last tripod. So if you were relying on Chainsword for that extra 20% like I was, you're going to have to play your red dust windows a little bit better and then either pick between Precise Dagger and Adrenaline. And personally, more attack power, 15% crit chance. In my opinion, Adrenaline is just better than Precise Dagger across the board, for me at least. But the reason you would is because this is a fat fury boosting ability with only a couple more seconds of wait time, and it makes this spec have a way better flow to it while still having a counter. And if you're not running a counter at all, then I don't know what to tell you. But this is the original build that I ran in the Ultimate Berserker guide when you saw me doing whatever raid that was. But just to go over it, with that small buff to Burst Tech, which the spec was already super good and very viable and very fun, it just means that we have 2 viable specs as Berserker now. So if having low HP and Mayhem wasn't for you with the sustain damage, then going huge with Big Burst is something you can do as Berserker's Technique. You just have to change your playstyle a little bit, and it's actually insanely enjoyable. And I know a ton of people in Discord have swapped the Burst Tech because they like it a lot more, because it just has such a crazy high burst potential when you play it correctly. So don't overreact, don't quit the game because of some changes. You're still going to be better than 99% of the people you party with, and they're still going to cry the Berserker's OP, and the only thing that's broken is their mental. And one thing that almost broke my mental a little bit on the forums was like, this Rocks post about like, yo, maybe we might not give another power pass for Destroyer, dude. The reality is, if they don't give another power pass, I'm not talking about the Express Arc Pass, by the way. I understand the Express Arc Pack is an event, like that's an event item, but like the power pass, which should be already purchasable in game, which isn't purchasable, that would just let you boost a character to like Punika, for instance, like on all the other servers, you would just buy it and then you're 1302. I don't really like shilling for Amazon, but like that's something that needs to get put in the game because a T1 to T3 grind at this stage of the game is just not fun, and the game's about fun. So I really think that this should be looked at in the perspective of either add the option to pay for a Destroyer to be put to 1302, or just give us another pass. Like on KR and JP and RU, you just get a pass every time a character comes out. And I know we're going to have a lot of characters coming out, but I don't really think it would be that big of a deal to just feed us passes. I don't think anybody would really care that much, and I don't really think it negatively affects the game at all. But I do know that one of the biggest problems with MMO is getting new players into the game. If they see a class they really like, and Destroyer's really hyped, obviously, Destroyer, main the Destroyer King, I'm going to be in there hard. But nobody wants to re-progress tier 1 to tier 3 with no buffs or anything. That's not fun. The whole point is fun, building hype, getting new people into the game, and constantly keeping that flow of people there. And every new class should bring a lot of hype. No class should be stuck in a window where like you have to reprog the entire game that you've already progged. And like, I get some people's perspective that are like, well, I want to gatekeep everybody. Stop gatekeeping, bro. Like, it doesn't matter. Just let people boost their characters to the final tier of the game. So I'm just trying to think of the best way for more people to get into it. I really don't want to reprog T1 to T3, but I'll do it if I have to for my main man. And I usually flame Amazon for being really amazing and really stupid, but I'll definitely give them a big break if they just try to make decisions that make people happy instead of trying to make like the best business decision or whatever fake metric for the game that could possibly give me a singular reason to tell me that it'd be a bad idea to help more people get into the game and boost another character to 1302, or even the Phaeton Pass. But the Phaeton Pass wouldn't make sense because they specifically said that when they release Vulcan, the majority of people should be at 1400. So that way nobody feels gated like they did on Argos or left out. So there would never be a reason to release another character without a 1302 pass again. The reality is the Destroyer is coming out, so you already know I got my big hammer man back. I don't care if I got to reprog. I've got enough materials to destroy the entire game from T1 to T3. I've been prepped for this. I've been waiting for it. And I just need to get back to compensating.